So Janique, with a client, we've identified the issue. Now, our next steps are to clear the way, to understand what the obstacles and what the challenges are that are facing them, and how do we move them out of the way.
And in there we must have a little story to tell these people so that we can better understand what it is that we're talking about in this case.
I have a client who lived in a very abusive family, and her father had told her that she could never amount to anything. She loved to draw. She loved to paint. She loved to finger paint. She loved to color. Her father said, "Why are you wasting any time doing this? You're not an artist. You could never be an artist. You're not the kind of person that's an artist. You will never amount to anything in the artistic world." So she grew up believing that lie. And she came to me, and that was one of her obstacles. That was one of her challenges, because she still so loved to draw and to paint, but thought she could never really do it because she would never amount to anything. So I asked her a question. When you hear that statement, "You will never amount to anything in the artistic world," and you're not that kind of a person, I simply said, "What do you see?" And being the artist that she was, she painted this picture for me in her mind of a little girl sitting in a beautiful wooded area with a big huge tree. She was sitting under the tree. She was happy, she was content, but there was one thing there. She couldn't leave this little place because there was a brick wall. And she would walk up to the brick wall and she couldn't get around. She was little, it was too high, there was no place to step up. She tried to scale it, she couldn't get over this wall. So she'd just go back and sit under her little happy place tree. And she could never move forward. So I said, okay, well, let's look at this from a different perspective. Let's look at this from a different lens. Go back to the tree. Climb the tree. And then tell me what you see. So she did. And she got up in the tree. And all of a sudden she could see the limitations, the boundaries of this brick wall. She could see that it didn't even look high anymore because she was so much higher than it, being perched in the tree. She could see that each end had an end, that she could actually get around that thing. So she scurried down the tree, took her path that she saw from an aerial view, walked right around this blockage, this obstacle that had haunted her whole life, and was on the other side of this wall. And she understood at that moment, it was like a revelation in her mind, in her soul, in her spirit, that was a lie. That was not the truth. She is an artist. She loves to draw. She loves to paint, and she's really good at it. So she went forward, took classes, and is happily painting now.
So, it's just it's a beautiful metaphor of how a lot of people at a subconscious level are working from that subconscious level. Of working at the conscious level of never really realizing that that is a blockage at a place they don't even realize. And the job of a coach when they're sitting with them is to simply begin to put light on, shed light onto the truth of that obstacle, of that unconscious thought, of that subconscious thought about the lie, and then therefore the aha moment happens, and therefore the truth of that, the awareness of that comes to light, and you're able now to go forward.
And that is the greatest privilege that I enjoy as a life coach, to help a person find that for themselves. and really understand from a subconscious point of view, from a spiritual point of view.
Nice.
What is the actual truth about who you are and what you can do and what you're capable of. And finding out the passion. She's an artist.
Yeah. And changing the lingo. She was saying, I am not an artist at a subconscious level. And yet at the conscious level, she was saying, I am an artist. And then with those two together, because one was saying, I am not, the other was saying, I am, they weren't working together.
But the one that wins out is the one you truly believe. And I think this is the crux of what it is we do with a client. What we will together explore. What are you believing? What is really true and what is not true? Because the one that you believe is the one that's going to win.
Yeah. And you're able to take responsibility for it at that point, right? You're able to say, well, if that's truly what I believe, and forget about the rest of the people, the rest of the lies, you take responsibility now in bringing that forth.
And I think this is where our method of being artful comes in really handy and is so superbly apt at working this whole method through.
Yeah.
Because first of all, we have to be aware of what it is that obstacle is.
Yeah.
You will never amount to anything. That's an obstacle. That's a challenge. It's also a lie. So we're aware of that.
So now all of a sudden I know that. I know.
We've shed the light on that. So we can see it clearly. It's no longer in the dark. It's no longer in a secret place. It is in the open. As difficult as sometimes shedding light on something is, the truth will always set you free.
And sometimes there's a lot of the emotions that come to the surface at that point are like, oh my God, I've been stuck like for 10 years.
And you know what? In life coaching, it's okay if you cry.
Yeah, cry a lot.
It's totally fine. We don't mind. We always have Kleenex. And we cry together.
And it's a privilege for you and I, right?
Absolutely.
When we see that.
Yeah.
And then we can be humble with them.
Yeah.
And at the same time, hold ground and be firm with the idea of helping them come to the realization.
We definitely don't stay at that emotional spot.
No.
We move forward. But sometimes you got to get there.
Totally.
That's totally good.
Yeah.
So you're aware of what that obstacle is. Then we own it.
Yeah.
I have said I believe that. I have believed that I will never amount to anything in the artistic world.
Yeah.
But it's a lie.
I get to change that.
So this is a beautiful turnaround.
Yeah.
And we get to have this lovely interchange with the client about what is the truth.
Yeah.
And so we figure all that out. And then there's the responsibility of now what do I do with my newfound truth?
Nice. Yeah.
And we take on that responsibility by making a plan and by understanding what those passions really are and what motivates you. And as we learn what really motivates you inside, living from the inside out instead of from the outside in, momentum is created. And you go ahead and do your thing. Whatever that thing is.
I imagine this beautiful artist girl who all of a sudden was given the opportunity, was given the ability, was given the okayness, how do you say that? It was given the
permission.
Was allowed. Okay, here it is. This artist now was allowed and give permission to now delve into her work of art.
Yes.
With joy, no matter what, because she's in her passion now.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, releasing that, all this grace probably comes her way slowly and surely. You know, she's out there in the world. She's doing her art. She's being asked. She's being commissioned to do something all of a sudden. But certainly that just falls into play. And I don't know, just imagine that girl and I think, yay.
Yeah, no, it's true because you finally get to live what's in your heart. And living from the inside out is such a beautiful concept because we are taught in the world, if you do this and this and this, you'll get that.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily. Because maybe it has nothing to do with what makes you tick inside. If you do what's already written on your heart, if you allow your heart to say, here I am, this is me, this is what I love to do, this is what makes me tick, this is what makes me happy, then your gifts automatically flow out from you.
And I think it also morphs over time.
Yeah.
Because somehow, somewhere, there may be something that doesn't necessarily work out the way that you expected it, or work out the way that you maybe had planned for it to happen. Right. But there's a morphing of it because you're truly living in your passion. Therefore, there's this momentum, this circular motion that still will maybe work for a very long time, but you're in the flow.
Well, I like the fact that you said circular motion, because when we live in a circular momentum instead of a linear momentum, there's a beginning and then there's an end. Circular never ends.
Yeah, it just keeps going.
So it's this lovely natural progression of developing who we are, and the natural outcome of developing who we are is living authentically and genuinely being who we're supposed to be.
Correct, yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.